Hi, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Numbers. My name is Dave Bookbinder, and welcome back to the show where we dig deeper to understand what really matters most in business. Today, we're going to be having an interesting conversation around brand strategy and brand equity. And I am pleased to welcome Erin Andrea Craske, who's an executive psychologist, award-winning author, and of course, a brand strategist. Erin, welcome to Behind the Numbers.
Thank you very much, Dave. I hope that the
Great.
conversation will go smoothly after how we started.
Look, tech problems happen to the best of us. All good. That just means the conversation is going to be even tighter. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about who you are?
Well, I spent a few days trying to prepare for this question.
That's a
But then
stumper, huh? Who are you?
yeah, I know it doesn't help because every time I'm trying to avoid it. So I came up with a real story. And the
Okay, and for
story,
anybody out there who's wondering, yes, we do this live.
and the story goes as follows. So I believe I think about my background as something that many people would envy. So you have a privileged family, you have quality upbringing, you have quality education, you have international fast-paced career. And, from the outside, it looked like everything was absolutely fine. But what people didn't see was what was happening behind the glorious facade. And I've appeared to be trapped in my own illusions in terms of what the world is, what success means, and in my own identity that wasn't even mine. And they didn't know about it, but neither did I. So for me, it was all new. The only thing that I learned, and it happened very early in my childhood, I had 4 learnings that I carry out throughout my life. The first one is that authority doesn't necessitate to be virtuous or professional or even right. The second thing I remember is that nonconformity, it doesn't really matter whether you're talented, you're brilliant, you're educated. If you have an opinion that challenges the status quo, at some point you're going to get buried, right? You're going to get punished for that. And this is something I learned very early. Another thing is that, this thing that happens often to people when they're children, they don't feel accepted by whoever they wanted to be accepted by. And usually they end up as trying hard to fit in, and then they carry this pressure throughout the whole life. So it was my situation, apart from I decided that I'm not going to try to fit in, I'm just going to stay true to myself. Right, so I built this distance, but the learning that I had from this experience is that when you don't try to fit in, actually you gain in strength, power, and independence. And the fourth learning, I think that's pretty much relevant to all of us, that money can make you a hero, and they can actually open your door into the future, and that money pretty much equals success in terms of wealth, status, and prestige. So I was wise enough to accept the latest 2 learnings, lessons, and I decided, for whatever reason, I made a choice to disregard the first 2. And that put me in a situation of being kind of a blessing and a curse. The blessing was in my business life that as a challenger, I have, sorry,
Did I
I had
lose you?
to, yeah, I had to things open on by itself. So as a challenger, I had an opportunity not to go together with the industry. I could challenge the industry. I could break the rules because I knew the rules. I could look outside of the box. I could be creative. So basically, everything that within my ethics I could do to increase the bottom line. So that was really a blessing because you don't follow the same old. You don't do what everybody else does. You every time try to find a new different way to build your brand, to help to build the business. And that was working. Besides, challenges are natural, visionary, and leaders. So that was a bonus. On the flip side, when I said it was a curse, it's something that is not accepted in the corporate world, because the corporate world, from my experience, is built on conformity, right? So, and that was kind of, I carried through my whole life until I came to the point where I had to go through personal transformation, because I was rapidly going downhill. I was spiraling downwards. And that through this transformation that took me a good 5 years, I actually lost my identity. I lost my ego. I lost my self-definition. And I lost the perception of the world as it was. What I gained instead, it was freedom, complete freedom, and to become unapologetically me. So that was kind of the story that I carried with me, and this is something that I want to share with people. So the first one is the gift of strategy, because it means so much in business, and unfortunately people don't realize it. And the second one is the gift of being free. So that's in a nutshell.
So much of that resonates because, as you know, I write and speak about the value that people contribute to a business enterprise. And there's a lot of folks out there talking about it. I still think I'm the only one in my profession in the valuation community that's really talking about this. And when I first embarked on that journey, I actually got slammed by some haters. I'm out there saying people are your most valuable assets, and people who believe that same thing would actually contact me and say,
Yeah.
people aren't assets, companies don't own them. Like, you're missing the point. Read on.
Yeah, exactly.
So I totally get that. And look, there's a lot of fear and uncertainty when you step into that spotlight of being the nonconformist. And I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there who are listening thinking, yeah, you're right, I've got to conform, because if I show up any other way, I'm going to get punished for it. So how do you then show up in that, we'll call it the authentic way, in the nonconformist way, and still live within the guardrails of your day to day?
Oh, that's a very good question, because I didn't say that I wasn't punished. I said that I learned
Yeah.
my lesson and I decided to disregard it. And that was the curse that happened to me over and over and over again. Right? At some point, it's always a choice. People say that there are three types of workers. So the first one that do conform and actually they do make a career. Then you have those who burn out and those who quit. So that's the third type that I belong to, right? So every time I was trying to I was choosing to stay true to myself, whoever I thought I was. So I didn't allow anybody to break me, and I didn't allow anybody to mold me. And it was working for a while, and then you just have to, change the direction and go a different way. So it's a choice you make and the responsibility you take for your choices. I am
Yeah.
really glad that I went that direction and I kept myself instead of, working with people. I know what they go through. I know what's happening in their heads. I know the life they're living. And thanks God, that's not what I have. So from this perspective, I'm blessed. I was strong enough to stay by myself.
Oh, good for you on that. You said you wanted to share the gift of strategy. I'm going to ask you to do that and define strategy for us too in that process, if you would, Erin.
Ooh, the best way I can define strategy is the road. So there's the picture. Imagine you have a team and you decided to go on a trip somewhere in the mountain on a nature side, right? So you approximately know where you want to get. You have a team behind you. You're all well prepared for whatever journey you planned for, roughly. So you have enough food, enough water, you have your sleeping bags, everything is ready. But you really don't know where you go. So what you do? We all go forward, and then there is like a dead end. And then you turn to the left, because here it seems to be like there's a little road. You turn to the left, and there's nothing, right? So you have to go back, and then you turn around. and you are exhausted, running out of food, running out of water, your team behind is completely pissed off because they just follow the direction that is no direction. By the time of whatever time you allocated for your journey, you're running out of resources, which are actually monetary, your food and water, human resources, because people are really exhausted and they don't really enjoying it, and you're running out of time because you are still not at the destination. So that's the picture of what I see how businesses are run mostly nowadays. And this is what I call headless chicken syndrome. Because we're going to run this way, we're going to try something here. Then we're going to run different direction, we're going to try something here. And then I saw or I heard through podcasts, there's a fantastic new best practice that I immediately need to implement because that's going to fix the issue. Right? And everybody's exhausted. Then you're turning into the hamster wheel. It's a second syndrome because you just repeat all the different tasks, not going anywhere. So these two things, at least these two, because there are many more benefits, can be rectified with having a strategy. That is as simple as that. If you want to enjoy your business through running like a headless chicken in a hamster wheel, good for you, it's your choice. But if you're fed up being in the situation, why don't you just step for a second and think about the knowledge you're missing? Not the knowledge you know, but the knowledge you don't know. I know it sounds easier, but in my case, I even give you an answer. Think about strategy. Because strategy is like paving this road towards where you want to be and going straight. And also, by the way, if you know that in 3 kilometers you're going to find a monster, you're going to get prepared for this monster. Because you foresaw the situation and you are ready to mitigate the risks. While, and that's, by the way, it's a hint towards VUCA, the big, scary thing. Yes, it is scary, but life is not certain. Everything is changes. And when you are well prepared for the monsters, that probably VUCA is not going to be that scary. So that's the benefit of strategy. You get where you want to be. I don't know if a good metaphor.
Yeah, when you're working with your clients, do you find that many of them, most of them, don't actually have a strategy, that they're just sort of bobbing and weaving and going with the flow, and as you said, chasing the shiny objects with the latest best practices that are going to be paradigm shifting?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is why I wrote the book, because I had so many conversations, at some point you just kind of start seeing a pattern. And every time it was around strategy. So because they come back to, this conversation, they tell me what they do and where they're not progressing. And you start talking about strategy and absolutely adored their reactions. Because it's not like they were rejecting it. The first reactions, like they had no clue what I'm talking about. And then it was kind of, yes, it's interesting. And then one answer was absolutely perfect. The guy said to me, yes, it's really, strategy is very good, but we're not there yet. Like, this is how you start. Right? So
Right.
strategy always comes as an afterthought. It's something that I don't have time to because I need to do what I'm doing, meaning running like headless chicken. Because this is what I'm doing, and I don't have time to sit and think. So, but that's a trade-off you always make.
Yeah, I see that a lot in my world too, working with business owners in the valuation space, asking for things like a forecast, a business plan. And you'd be surprised, or probably not, about how many of them don't have a forward-looking document where they've got the roadmap for what next year and the year after that's going to look like. You mentioned a good segue when you talk about the book, which is From Purpose to Profit. Tell us a little bit about it and why you wrote it and what we're going to find inside it.
So it's exactly the reason that I mentioned. I had so many conversations and there are a few things that I learned. So the first one, again, that there are patterns in the way how businesses are run, and unfortunately they're not the good ones. And another thing is that I don't fit in. I'm a strategist. right? So you try to go to a company, you do your analysis, you look at everything that's happening, their positioning, their communication, their consumer, their messages, their road to market. I was like, Diego, what are you doing? And they don't want to hear it. They don't need it because they're so much consumed by thinking that they know that they're right. Then there's no place for different opinion, back to the beginning of our conversation. And at some point I thought, I really got fed up. I'm just banging my head against the wall and nothing's happening. So why don't I just go a different direction? I pack all my knowledge because honestly, I realized that it's valuable and I didn't want to die with it. And I thought, you know what? Whoever is interested to run it differently, to learn about strategy and absolutely fundamental business truth, they can just purchase the book because everything is explained. All 20 years of my experience in the corporate world is packed and explained in a very conversational, easy language. It's like, it's more like a coffee book, like a guide, because it's like, snippets of small information. So it's not heavy. You can open and just whenever refresh your knowledge. So it's like a desk book, whatever it is. So that was the idea. Instead of me trying to sell myself, why don't I just pack my knowledge and whoever can benefit from it, they're gonna.
Well, you are known as a brand strategist. So tell us what brand equity is and why it matters.
Oh, well, in my world, brand equity is the value that your business has, the true value. Although they said in the current world, I guess, I don't know if you can call ChatGPT brand. I wouldn't personally, but apparently it's valuable. So it really depends how you look at it. Sometimes people value more technology behind the brand, but definitely in the B2B world or B2C world, brand would matter because this is what people pay for. There's one thing that businesses don't realize is that they don't earn because they sell products. They earn money because somebody buys their products or services. And it's a very big difference. And people buy those products and services that they trust, that they resonate with, that they find relevant and appealing. If it's not happening, you're going to be commodity. Because today they're going to buy you, and tomorrow they're going to buy somebody else. So that's what equity brings. That's a kind of summary weight of intangible part of your business. And this is what matters. This is what is valuable. So that's
Yeah, you're
what's
speaking
equity.
my language there when you talk about intangibles, because most businesses are comprised now of intangible assets. I think the overall percentage in terms of the S&P 500 is north of 90% now. So these things like brand matter, and when companies are acquired, there's a lot of value that's ascribed to brands and trade names and things like that. So from that lens,
Sorry,
then, Erin.
just to jump on it, because that is really interesting. It's only when I was writing the book, I realized that when we talk about strategy, when we talk about brand, people think about brand strategy and business strategy. In reality, when you have a single brand, or if it's your business brand strategy is 90% similar to a business strategy.
Yeah,
So
they're
there
synonymous
is
in so
no
many
difference.
businesses.
Yeah, there's absolutely no difference. So they're not two. And when we talk about brand, we talk about equity. That's something to bear in mind. It's not like you need a business strategy, then you're going to build a brand. Or it's not like you have a brand name and now you believe you probably need to do a business strategy. No, it's pretty much the same thing. You need to have one. It makes
Yeah.
it easier,
And,
but it also changes your mentality that your brand is your business and vice versa.
yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree with you more. So when you think about the brand, two things come to my mind immediately. One is proper positioning, and two is differentiation. How do you stand out from your competition? Can you talk about both of those?
Yeah, I'll try to refresh my knowledge. Again, as you learned from my tabs opening by themselves, it's definitely not recorded. So, differentiation can be done by a few different ways. those that come to mind to me immediately is differentiation by brand image and differentiation by meaning, brand meaning. And another one, it's not differentiation, it's more like visually diverse. It can be differentiation by visual brand expression. That is not differentiation as such, but some may use it as well. And when I talk about being differentiated on the purpose, on the ground of image or meaning, both are intangible. It's either, the image attributes, and usually it's applicable to premium brands, because from my experience, and pardon me here, they may have amazing image attributes, but meaning is zero, right? Apart from flashy status and something gold, really doesn't go any further than that, but meaning is image is different. So to give you an example, that's really easy one, you have so many premium luxury watches. You're going to have Amiga, you're going to have Longines, you're going to have Rolex. And if you look back at the image of people representing them and on C2, how it looks, you will see that they target different people. So image gonna be different. It's like the one of Mercedes and BMW. They're still gonna be different. That's why I talk about image. And meaning is what the brand means. It's deeper. I don't know how to explain meaning. It's the reason for being, the meaning of the brand. So if it's something that is more superficial image, and this is how you want to look, having purchased wearing this brand, and image, this is how it resonates with me, how well connected I am with the deep reason for being for a brand. So that's a differentiation. Both are intangible, have to say, but both matters. But without differentiation, you have no brand. That just, it's not a brand, it's a branded product.
Yeah, that's an interesting distinction. Without the strategy, it's just a branded product. But yeah, you're right. The brand is about everything that people envision. It's the cachet of owning a particular product or working with a particular company for what they either represent, what they stand for, business-wise. Apple, when you think about Apple, somebody once pointed out to me a long time ago, people don't put stickers on their Apple laptops like they did on other laptops because of the trust and the cachet and everything that comes with owning the Apple product. It's definitely a differentiated brand, and they created the loyalty.
You see, loyalty is another different. It's absolutely different thing because loyalty is very intangible. A lot of companies try to bribe for loyalty with discounts, with different promotions, but loyalty is the respect and appreciation you have for the brand. It's purely emotional, right? So, and you can't bribe it. With regards to Apple, it's a really good conversation because I believe they lost the brand. With the passing of Steve Jobs, I believe that they have no brand anymore. If you look at advertising, it used to be what it is now. It's so much product focus. So they're riding on the equity that was built before as for intangible brand. But in reality, yes, it's a high quality product. I don't deny it. But brand wise, I believe they're diluting it.
Yeah, the messaging is definitely different and sometimes absent.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, in the book, I believe you've got 6 pillars for effortless profitability flow.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love for you to share that with our listeners.
Yeah. So that again is coming just from my experience, understanding how business works, and it may be subjective, but I found quite a few good people saying similar things. So there may be a grain of truth in it. And all 6 pillars that we're going to be talking about, they are built on foundation. Because any business will need to have a foundations like a house, that without it, you can paint your wall, till a museum, and then when the wind comes, it doesn't really matter how much paint you're going to put on your walls, it's still going to collapse. So, as for the pillars, the first one is strategy. I hope there's no surprise. We've been talking about it already.
Yeah, let's start from the beginning, right?
Yeah. The second one is leadership. And leadership, as it's another, why I call them pillars, because as there's no business without strategy, there's no business without leadership. Or we can reverse it and say that any business is as good as the leader who runs it. And it just changes the perspective of what leadership is about, because for me, it's about being who you are. Not who you believe you are, but the best version of yourself. It's not about 25 different trainings that you're going to forget, or when you're stressed, they're just going to out of your head immediately, because naturally you're going to be predisposed to behave in the way that you used to behave. But it's about being the best, who you really are. And you are human before you're a leader. Sometimes people forget that being a leader or being a business owner or being whoever manager is just a label that you put and you're trying to live by. And it's not real. The third pillar are people. And because there's no business without people. And I'm
Amen.
talking about your teams, and I'm talking about your customers, and I'm talking about business partners. They are all humans. They have their own needs, they have their own wants, and they come and they work with you. If you want them to work with you, well, probably you need to treat them in a way that would motivate them to contribute to your business. It's like you offer products and services in a way that customers are willing to open their wallets and give you money. Not because you force them, because they want to. You treat partners not as suppliers that owe you something because you pay. No, because without partners, you can't do it yourself. It's just so simple to appreciate. You don't like your partners, try to do it by yourself. We'll see how far it'll go. Same with teams. The first thing that comes to mind, who is the person or entity that is hiring? Who needs people first? You hire because you need people, not because they come and knock onto your door, although this also may happen, I believe, in certain organizations. But the point is, they don't owe you anything because you want them first. So, which means that you can't do without. Appreciate having them on board. So that's the third pillar. The fourth one is implementation. And this one is actually not my focal point because I'm not a tactician. But I've seen implementation that was spoiling even the best strategies. Because implementation is not about doing here and now, as we discussed, but it's about improving. It's about learning. It's about having your processes organized so your resources are not wasted, so everybody knows where they go. That is you moving with your team in a backpack, right? But you have everything prepared instead of, oh, let's try go there and see how it goes. No, you learn, you evaluate every activity, and you improve on a daily basis. Only with that, just imagine that if you're all departments within an organization working through daily improvements, how much your business going to be, how much better it's going to be, because everything is growing steadily, right? The fourth pillar is contribution. And as I say, that purpose is strategic, contribution is tactical. But contribution is not just a flashy word. It's not for the sake of doing good things, although there's nothing wrong with it. If I'm just trying to be completely selfish, contribution, that is your meaning that you bring to your organization and that you engage with on a daily basis. And that brings resilience. That brings peace of mind. That brings calmness and motivation. It brings so many things just because you have the meaning behind what you do. It's a psychological trick, but it works.
Yeah.
And the sixth pillar is personal growth, because stagnation won't bring you anywhere. You know, when you're a rusty manager with rusty toolkit and rusty knowledge, then probably this is how your organization is going to be. You grow and your organization will grow together with you. So those are 6 pillars. Very easy, I guess. Nothing complicated. Everything is
No,
effortless.
and you summarize it really well because it so aligns with everything that I talk about. It all starts with leadership because leadership drives the culture, which gets employees more engaged, which drives discretionary effort, which drives profitability, which drives business valuation. So, it's all connected, and that's what I talk about all the time. Erin, I would love to continue this conversation with you, but unfortunately, we're out of time. But
Yeah.
before we go, tell the audience how they can connect with you, where they can find you if they want to learn more about you, work with you, and where they can get the book.
Well, typically all information about me are going to be in the show notes. Yeah, let's make it effortless. If you're interested, you're going to find me there.
Okay, very good. That's enough. And Erin, I can't thank you enough for joining us today on Behind the Numbers. Real pleasure.
Thank you so much, Dave.
And I want to thank you out there for listening to this program and your continued support. Can't do it without you. My name is Dave Bookbinder, and I'm known as a business valuation expert. And if you're a business owner and don't know what the value of your business is, like most business owners actually, or maybe you don't even know what the word EBITDA means. You've heard somebody talking about it at a cocktail party and they told you it's important. That's why I just recently published a book called The Valuation Toolbox for Business Owners and Their Advisors. It's a little booklet, summarizes my career with some of the high notes that I felt that business owners need to understand about what's involved in valuing a business, debunks some myths, gives you some tips and strategies, and it's available now. That's all we have for today, gang. We'll see you next time on Behind the Numbers. Take care.